if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Tephany, and today we are doing another UnSupermom Uncensored episode. If you see my last episode, then you're familiar with Portia. Say hey, Portia.
Hey, guys.
If you see my birthday video blog, then you guys know Sam's face. Say hey, Sam.
Hey.
So we're all moms, and we all came into motherhood a different way, and we all have varying circumstances right now with motherhood and life and just being women. So today's episode, we're going to talk about being working moms, the financial responsibilities of parenthood, and maybe if we have time, we'll talk about some changes that we've gone through as we progress as women. Disclaimer, you may hear children in the background because the kids are here playing, and you may hear the dogs barking and all that stuff. Welcome to my life, the good, the bad, and all the crap that's in between. Before we get started, in our last episode, I let Portia kind of explain how she became a mom and her current motherhood status. So I'm going to give Sam the same opportunity just so you guys can get to know her better too.
Okay, so hey everybody. Thanks, Tef, for inviting me. I am thankful because Portia's already done this, so I like to talk a lot and get on a soapbox. So I'm excited that I'm here today. So a little bit about my story. I am a Midwest native. So I was born and raised in Michigan. I moved out to California about 10 years ago. At that time, I met my daughter's father. We were together off and on, I would say, for a good
decade.
Yes, very long time. Very long time. That definitely was my buddy. We had more of that friendship at first. Needless to say, without getting into the gunk of it all, we had Riley. But in the interim of that, we were on, when we had our daughter, Rye, we were on the brink of separating. And then, of course, as couples do, you're like back and forth, and that's what love does to you, right? And so we were on the back and forth, and then we went back. And then I came out of that with a bun in the oven. And so it was a turning point for both of us because here we were struggling on making our relationship work, both of us imperfect people, and then now we have a bun in the oven. What are we going to do? Two grown adults that have careers, and now we're going to be parents. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We co-parent. So we tried to make it work for about a year of her life together. Unfortunately, that didn't work, and because he's a great father, I didn't see any reason for why we couldn't have Riley 50-50, so we never went to a court system, we never sat down with a mediator. I would like to say that it's the good Lord that has helped facilitate this.
So you guys co-parent right now. What does that look like for you?
Okay, great question. So what that looks like is, since she was 1.5, we pretty much started doing 1 day on, 1 day off every other weekend because Rye was so young. And of course, I'm thinking, how could I be away from my 1.5-year-old for a week at a time? And then he was thinking, well, I shouldn't be away from my daughter. So we just compromised, and literally, because I guess we're both a little selfish when it comes to her, we said, okay, every other day, we're going to drop off and pick up. At that time, I worked at a preschool, so I was a director of a preschool, so it just worked because she came to work with me, and then Dad would come and get her, and so on and so forth. So now, 4 years later, after that, Riley's 5, we still do that. 1 day on and 1 day off. I travel a lot for my career now, so when I travel, she's with Dad, and then that, that works, and then when he has things that he needs to get done, then I take her. So that's what co-parenting looks like for us. But as of right now, we've had the same routine for years, and we just try to work it out as best as we can. We're dysfunctional, but we try.
Okay, so if you're new to the channel, then you probably have not heard Portia's background. So if you can kind of update everybody.
Update.
Yeah. Update. I guess it's not an update.
Right, the update is I'm still a single parent. But how I became a single parent, my daughter is 3.5, getting ready to turn 4. I was in a relationship with her father for a couple of years, and that was unsuccessful. which left me to be a single parent. I've been a single parent to Jordan her entire life. There's never been a moment where her father has stepped in and been a parent of any kind, which some people would consider a hardship, and in some ways I guess it could be if you're talking about for childhood development pieces, but I actually consider it a blessing because I don't have to fight with nobody over anything, and the control freak in me relishes that I'm a single parent making all the decisions for my daughter, raising her the way that I would want to be raised with the values that I would want her to have. In terms of that male interaction for my daughter, I do have a lot of very close male friends that Jordan has a lot of interaction and FaceTime with, so it's not something that bothers me because I know that she has male presence in her life, even if that's not a father right now. I do plan on being married eventually in life as soon as somebody comes along that's worthy of us both. But for right now, I'm a single mom, and I actually like being a single mom, being able to make decisions for Jordan. So, yeah.
Alright, so being moms and being single, we have to work to support our families. And I know that personally being a working parent has had challenges for me. Is it more positive or negative for you guys, parenting and being a mom?
Who's going first?
Doesn't matter.
I talk a lot. You go first.
Yes, Jordan. What is it like being a working mom for you?
Well, now it's become easier because I found an employer that is more flexible with my time. That's really key for me, finding flexible employment and people who are willing to let me either come in late or leave a bit early, where I can kind of flex my time. Because my daughter has been going through testing for autism related characteristics, so she has a special preschool, and there's a lot of appointments associated with that. We don't know if she is indeed autistic just yet, but I will say the employment sector is a little less forgiving because they're paying for your time to be there to do a certain job, but also on the developmental side of things for children, they don't really have much flexibility because they're so short-handed. It's either you come at this appointment time or we got to move it along to like the next kiddo or something like that. So my daughter's development is the most important to me. So it was imperative that I found an employer that will let me be a little bit more flexible with my time. So that's always a challenge, balancing my time between my daughter's doctor's appointments and testing appointments and stuff like that, and then just balancing and making sure I'm giving the employer, I guess, the bang for their buck, if you will, to make sure that, you know, they're going to pay me so I can pay for stuff for her. So that can be challenging, that kind of round robin.
It goes with parenting challenge for every parent, I feel like, is finding, I don't know, maybe that's not what you were saying, because that's one of my challenges, daycare. Like when it comes to if his daycare is closed,
Yes.
then
What do you do?
what do you do? Because y'all are at work,
Right.
and I need to go to work.
Exactly.
So I'm like, having a provider who would be more flexible to meeting a single parent's need when it comes to child care. If the child is sick or daycare is closed, you won't find too many employers willing to let you be more flexible and work with your situation. So that's one of my challenges when it comes to being a single parent. Like,
well, to piggyback off of that, my daughter went to the same preschool as her son. When my daughter first started getting into school, I kept my daughter home for the first 2.5 years of her life. That is not why she has developmental, challenges, but it did surface itself once more eyes got on her in terms of how she played with other children and things like that. I will say with that, I found that even daycares are a little bit more rigid because the idea is we have to do what benefits the most as opposed to the one. So it became a challenge. My daughter didn't take naps, and this particular daycare had a nap time from like 12 to 2. Well, my daughter didn't take naps. She was more so, I'm going to go play with the toys, and for that particular center, it made it challenging for those providers because it kept the other children awake or made the other children want to play with the toys too. So when we found out, you know, via certain appointments that she might need additional help, I was able to secure her some services from X time to X time, and they were saying, well, and those services ended at about 12 o'clock, which is when their nap time started, and they're like, we can't take her during nap time because we can no longer accommodate that because it disrupts the program for the other children. So they said bring her at 3, but as a working parent, okay, my daughter has services in the morning. I pick her up from those services, and now I have a 2 to 3 hour gap where she can't be anywhere. The provider won't, the child care won't take her, and then I have to be at work. So, you know, again, what do you do with that challenge? And that's something that's still going on a little bit now that she's in a more secure preschool to help her with some of her developmental needs right now. Even then, it's only 5 hours a day. Even though it's a more succinct 5 hours a day, it's still only 5 hours a day. Luckily for me, my mom has stepped in and said, you know, she would, you know, watch her for the back half of the day for me. But without my mom, I am indeed up a creek.
Without a paddle.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like there's a need for child care providers to be more open to those children who don't flock with the rest of the group. It was heartbreaking for me, and it really made me emotional that my daughter couldn't go on certain field trips.
Yeah.
Or not that she couldn't go on certain field trips, she couldn't go on certain field trips without me. They're like, we have 15 other kids, we can't have someone solely dedicated to your child. You need to be on the field trip with her. So that meant my daughter had to miss out. And that hurt my feelings, even though I know it wasn't what they were trying to do. But it hurt my feelings as a parent, knowing that my daughter's missing out on the field trip and that I can't leave work again to take her and that sort of thing. So I don't know. That has been my deepest challenge as a single parent, that balance between making sure that being an advocate for my child on both ends, being an advocate with my employer, because that's one thing when I got my newer job, I was like, listen, I have a child, she has needs, I'm going to have to make these appointments. You either hire me with this circumstance or it's okay if you don't. They understood that. They decided they wanted me anyway, and I have a good job, thank God, that they're flexible in that regard. But without my employer's flexibility, I wouldn't be able to meet my daughter's appointments, because still on the child care side, it's still rigid. They're not willing to make the accommodation.
And my employer is not flexible like that. Like, either you have the time to take off and get it pre-approved, or you up a creek. So that's likely is a lesson to have that employer willing to work with you and give you.
And I have to thank the school district, because they even offered me, like, okay, we'll put her on the bus system. We'll take her on the bus and bring her back from the bus, because originally I was taking her to school and picking her up midday. So there was a 2-hour gap of time where I had to leave work, pick her up, take her to my mom, and then go back to work. And my employer was okay with that, thank God. But since the school district stepped in and be like, no, she can, ride the bus or whatever. There's cameras on the bus. I call dispatch all the time. I'm like, dispatch. They'll be like, okay, Miss Chambers, everybody knows me by name. I joined PTO because I need school leadership to know who I am, because Miss Chambers will pop off and be crazy if I have to be. But
I'm going to live vicariously through you guys on that. I'm not joining a PTO, ATB. I'm not doing it. Don't have no interest.
It's a helicopter parent in me. I just have to know what's going on.
Give me a definition. What does that mean? Because I don't think I'm a helicopter parent.
No. Well, okay, so for instance, and yeah, I'm a part of the PTA, but I'm realizing that, okay, even if I wasn't at the PTA, we have a meeting once a month. There's literally 4 of us parents and 3 teachers. Being on the PTA is not it doesn't make my presence known. It's me going to the functions at the PTA. It's being an involved parent. It's just whatever.
I feel like my job doesn't offer me the flexibility to do that stuff like that, because he has the little, we're gonna have such and such a day. Come eat lunch with us and move with you. I'm like, I might have to remove a child at lunch. I think to your point when you ask like, what can employers do without itemizing everyone's job, because like as a social worker you may not have that flexibility. You may say, okay, I'm gonna be there for him and then I have a removal. I juggle around conference calls, but then there's certain times that I have to be in the center, and then your employer is flexible and gives you that grace. I think in general employers just need to be flexible and mindful that there are times when they have to give grace, whatever that looks like to everyone's situation, and I don't necessarily have like an itemized, 3 times a month grace period, 4 times a month, but I think that you would keep happy employees that are parents when life happens, that you have a sliding scale of this is what I can do for you. Or if you say, I really want to make it to one family lunch for Isaiah, can I have this day, or can another social worker Let me tell you how cold-hearted mine is.
Because I don't know how they are.
Let me tell you. I'll tell you. So, because I've heard this even recently, but it just blew my mind the first time it happened. Oh, they're playing. It blew my mind the first time that it happened, because I was a new mom. We were newly returning to work. I have to go where my kids are on my caseload. So if my child's in Hawaii, I got to fly to Hawaii to visit them. So I had a visit that was a plane ride away. It was going to take me the whole day to get there, all this other stuff. I said, I'm a new mom and I don't have a support system like that to be able to fly out of state and to get back in time to pick him up from school and all that other stuff. I was told, well, have one of your co-workers watching. I said, have a stranger watch my child, someone that's never met my child don't know them. I don't know people like that at work. Like, why would that be an option as your employee?
Right.
And that's how cold it gets in there. Well, I've been told more than once, have your coworker watch your son overnight. No, not gonna do it. I don't know what's gonna happen, but that's how.
I would start preparing a plan to where you can transition out to where you can maybe find another job that pays you equal or more or something like that, because as a child gets older, you're going to need and want that flexibility to be able to have lunch with your baby or join the PTO after hours. Sports.
Riley hasn't even, again, talk about working mom and parenting and where it kind of falls off. I keep thinking to myself, she needs some extracurricular activity other than school, and that's important for her. And I feel like I've dropped the ball. I gave myself grace, and I said, okay, this first little stint of kindergarten, I'm starting kindergarten, you starting kindergarten, we all starting kindergarten. This drive is crazy. What does this look like with me traveling now? Because she can't miss school. She gets 10 little days that she can miss. So I have to be on the up and up before you come knocking at my door. So I'm trying to prevent you from knocking at the door. But, it's like I want her in dance. I want her in these after-school programs. I want her in these sports. But I look at my work schedule and my workload and what I do, and I think to myself, how am I going to be able to get her to school in enough time to where I start my day at 7 a.m., let's just say, to where I can get off, in the early afternoon to take her to a program that starts at the 5 or 6 o'clock hour.
Yeah. They have a lot of programs that start at like 3, 4. I'm like, y'all don't let your parents into consideration.
Exactly. Every dance class, we were looking at karate, swim lessons, and then the PM classes are only offered at certain times during the week and things of that nature. And of course, co-parenting with her father, it's just like I can't itemize his time, for him. So we're trying to work together.
I want the same thing for Jordan. I want her to do extracurriculars particularly karate because she's gonna defend herself should you bullies come around. Okay. So I want her to do that. I haven't looked into it yet, but it would have to be like an evening thing.
It's a lot of them, because I look for Isaiah's.
Stay at home moms.
They're in the middle of the day.
They're catered to that. And
I can't do this.
Apartment living, the same thing. A lot of the activities. I told my apartment, I'm like, y'all don't want people who work at these. Because everything is at 4, 3. Yeah, it's the same thing. I'm like, come in community gathering.
And it's the weekend. So then the other alternative is we get her involved in something that takes up our weekend time. But then again, it's, okay, so when does mom breathe? I don't breathe. I just blow up like a basket case when I'm at my point. Because there's just no time. It's hard. It's hard being able to work full time, whether you co-parent, whether you're a single parent, whether you're a parent that has a family support system, whatever that looks like. I know that there's some of you out there who probably are married and you feel as if you do everything, because I have friends that are that way. The woman, you're married but you still do everything, or you're married but your families don't help, So it's just in general when you're working. And then I know a lot of women who are stay-at-home moms that say that their job, and stay-at-home moms and wives, that they rather work, they want to work. I mean, and I've had debates back and forth. So I just think in general, when you're working, whatever that working looks like for you, and you're trying to do the best that you can to give your child this beautiful experience, it's taxing, because the pea will fall off the plate. It's rolling, and eventually you're trying to balance these peas to not fall off your plate. But there goes a couple, at least on my plate. Several fall.
What about you, Samantha?
Okay.
Or do you prefer, because you guys have different experiences than I have. You guys have from like pregnancy through to the birth.
Yes.
Like, how was that for you guys when you guys were pregnant versus when you gave birth and went into the work field? Did you find that your parental leave was significant enough to give you time to bond? Was there enough paid for you guys?
So, for me, so I work, my career's in child care centers actually, so the irony of it. I actually work for...
you one of those people that stop us?
I don't stop you, I just work for the companies that stop you maybe. But all jokes aside, my journey, I was a director of an hourly child care center when I was pregnant with Riley. It's not like your traditional ABC 1, 2, 3. So in short, there were long hours as a director. I mean, I would work until like 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. And I was commuting, I would say about 35 minutes to work and back, pregnant and running a center. And I was also on my feet. So I wasn't in an office. I was just kind of hustle and bustle. Financially, because of the way that my company was set up at the time, I felt like I didn't have a choice but to work up until I had her. I actually went into labor a day after a long weekend of working on my feet. And so, I guess it was a choice that I made, but I didn't feel like I was financially set or had or just the means to really be able to enjoy my pregnancy and not have to worry about working up until I had her. Of course, my daughter's father, he definitely was stable and is stable, but again, 2 totally different households, right? Sam had to provide for Sam, Dad had to provide for Dad, so I worked on my feet up until I had her. Our PTO was sick and personal time all lumped in one. So it's not like I had,
PTO is personal time off?
Yes,
okay.
Personal time off. So I needed to use, whether I was sick, whether I needed to just go to a doctor's appointment, it was all kind of lumped in one, and a vacation, all lumped in one. So in short, it was, and I don't think that 6 weeks is enough to bond with your baby at all. And so I didn't have a C-section. I had a natural birth. Vaginal, my vag area. And I only had 6 weeks to bond with her. And again, I went right back to work. Right after I had her. So it was a grind. I mean, at the time, he worked in the Bay Area, and I worked all the way like Lake Tahoe. So literally, and Nana was like that halfway point. On the weekends when I worked, I would drop Riley, my 7-week, 8-week-old baby that I was still nursing.
Yeah.
And of course I was big on breastfeeding. And so I would leave her with Nana, and then I would drive an hour into work, and I would work until like 1 in the morning or until like 11, get off, and then Dad would meet at Nana's, and then I would drive all the way an hour back to get to my baby. It was rough. It was a grind. It was emotionally draining. It was mentally draining.
How was that on your breastfeeding?
Crazy. I remember driving, I'm a multitasker, but I remember I had like an electric pump that worked on battery, and I would be driving and like doing it at the same time. I'm like, this is gonna work. But when I mean to tell you as mothers, the multitasking and the sacrifices that we make just to make sure that our financial well-being is being met, our child's well-being is being met, it's difficult. It's an emotional roller coaster. So after Rye was about 7 months old, I had to take a step back and go to a more traditional preschool setting because of that survival, because I needed somewhere where Riley can go, I can go, that I can be with my baby every day. That I was blessed with a new career path, which brought its own challenges that are emotional challenges, and because now I travel a lot. So I was blessed financially, so now I can provide more for Rye. But then what comes with that is I'm now separated from the equation for like a week or a week and a half because I travel for work. So Dad is on the home front while I'm gone, doing hair, and he does a mean ponytail, but he's doing the hair, and he can get it all up in a pony. But, so Dad is on the home front while I travel, so then I have that mom guilt, right? Because now I'm able to try to advance in my career, but I have mom guilt that I'm away from her, and then I have to deal with the co-parenting aspect of it. You're gone too much, you're not here enough. It's that whole, without getting into the tumbleweeds of it all. And on top of that, I didn't know that kinder has homework. A lot of it.
Preschool has homework. We don't ever do it, Miss Shay.
and I'm apologizing every traveling her teachers know when I'm gone and traveling, because they're like, oh Mom, welcome back. I'm like, welcome back. I don't really know what that means. I hope that Dad had it on lock, which
her ponytail probably crooked.
It's on the gangster lean a little bit, but really and truly it's difficult because she's at an after school care program. So kinder gets out at 1. I don't pick my baby up until 6, until it closes. And then mind you, she's there at like 8 o'clock in the morning. Her school starts at 9. My sweet baby, like most of our children, are in an institution of some sort for longer than our work hours. And so sometimes at her after school program, I had to fuss at them because she wasn't getting her homework done. She's there with you guys for 4 hours, and not a ABC 1, 2, 3 was getting done. By the time we make the 30-minute drive home, my baby's tired, she's knocked out in the seat, she's snoring, she's drooling. We don't have time for homework because we have to do bath, we have to do bed, we have to do hair, we have to get back up. And I'm a mom that my planner has a planner. Like I have a processes, I have a planner. And I think that's one thing that I've had to let go is just, is she fed? Is she loved? Is she intact with all of her fingers and her toes? We can live to see another day, because it gets like that where it's like, okay, pizza for dinner, cool. You may not get broccoli, but you'll get pizza. And I had to just work on that.
And I just feel like I have friends that will say to me, what are y'all eating? I'll be like, Popeyes. And it's like, Tephany, you gotta stop eating out so much. I know that.
Right.
I know that.
Right.
Or they say, he needs, because I don't know if y'all can hear me over the kids. He needs like fruits and vegetables and stuff. I'm like, well, they give him all of that at school. Today he's not gonna get that at home, unfortunately, because we do have to get home, get bath, clean, mommy time before you go to bed. And sometimes that's like an hour sometimes before all of that stuff has to occur. And then I feel upset because I'm like, certain people, some of my friends don't understand because they work part-time, or they don't have to be a single parent, so it's like not the same circumstances, so you don't understand the struggle,
right?
And I feel judged sometimes.
And you know what, it's funny because on the flip side of that, because I am co-parenting, I look forward to secretly, the weekend, and I'm like, it's Dad's weekend, and I'm like, bags packed, suited and booted, out the door, right? And so for me, but I didn't start out that way. I mean, I started out crying and having all that guilt. But now I look forward to that. And then I think about the times which there are many times when he can't be there, and my parents aren't living, and like I said, my family is far away, and then her Nana and her auntie are pretty far away, relatively, and she only is with family, and then these two, and then Marissa, which is another close girlfriend of mine. But other than that, we have a very small circle of women and family that oversee our children. Our village is very small. Yeah. So it's like there's a lot that we miss out on because we just don't have anyone else to look after our children. But I feel blessed that I at least can look at my calendar and say on February the X, yeah. She's out the door, versus you ladies don't, you don't have that. And when I was in Michigan, I really thought about you too, because of course I took my daughter with me on my trip home to visit family and to travel. And I had her for 2.5 weeks straight, and I felt so wrong because I said, I'm a mother, I'm supposed to have my child every day. But in my head I was like, I need a break.
Well, I mean, my story is slightly different from Sam's story. When I was pregnant, I actually was a financial aid advisor, so I had like a desk job. So the most I did was get up and go to the lobby. Get up and go to the lobby and call the next student's name so we could go back to my cubicle and go over their financial aid. And at the time, what's funny is me and my coworker were pregnant at the same time. She was 3 weeks ahead of me. So there's 2 women in the department that were pregnant. It was a relatively easy job. And I could have been on that show. I didn't know I was pregnant if it weren't for the fact that I was pregnant, because people would call and check on me, like, how are you feeling today? I'm like, fine. I feel like me. Like, are you tired? No, I'm not. Like, there was nothing going on. I didn't have any morning sickness. I didn't have any of that. The biggest worry I had at the beginning of my pregnancy was whether or not her father was going to step in and be going to the doctor's appointments and things like that. He did not.
I went to see the baby.
You did. That was like, she went. But the point I was trying to make is the most stress I had was whether or not this other person was going to be an active and involved person. Yeah. They weren't. So I was like, cool. That's fine. I'm going to do me then. I ended up giving up my apartment. I moved in with my mom, so I was pregnant at home with my mom for the most part. And I was really happy and excited being pregnant because earlier the doctor said, oh, it might be hard for you to get pregnant because of menstrual cycle issues or whatnot. And I was like, oh. And what's funny is I wasn't even thinking about having a kid. I was just like, but I want my options taken away. Wait a minute. But then, like maybe the next month I got pregnant. And I was like, oh, cool. Oh, cool, we gonna roll with this then. So that's what happened. My pregnancy was like super easy up until the end when I was in labor for 5 days. Like that was...
I feel like you had an easy delivery. I just remember we went.
The delivery was easy.
The delivery itself.
Getting to the delivery was hard. Yeah. Like those 4 days before.
I think you did one push and she was here, and I was like,
really
oh my gosh.
Like we got there, we went to the store, we came back. I felt like I had a snack, and then Jordan was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It went down like that.
And it was like clockwork because she was supposed to be born on X day. I went into the hospital on X day, and she was technically born the next day because it was in 2 in the morning. But I went into the hospital by due date. So I had a really, really easy pregnancy in terms of incubating her and stuff.
So your employers. So you think your employers were very. So the amount of time, because I know Sam said that she doesn't think the 6 weeks was sufficient.
I had 4 months.
You had 4 months?
I had 4 months. I don't know how I ended up with 4 months off, but I had 4 months off. And what was funny is my employer wasn't even expecting me back. They were expecting me to come back in September. I'm like, no, I'm coming back in August. They're like, oh, you come back in August? Okay. But they were going to give me more than that. But I ended up with 4 months off.
That's amazing. I had allotted 6 weeks. You better nurse, bond, kumbaya it up, and then your tail is back to work. disclaimer, I know that my employer would have kept my job for me if I wanted to take, a longer period of time off. But financially, I couldn't. I was, working on my savings. No one really taught me financial, what is the
literacy.
word? Yes, there we go. How to be financially savvy and that sort of thing in my upbringing.
Competent.
Right.
Well, what's funny about it, my employer,
mom.
Yeah, I wasn't really financially set either. It just so happened at the time I had an HSA health savings account, and they were already taking money out of my paycheck.
Is this for medical?
Yeah, into my health savings account.
Should we admit to this on camera?
What?
You took money from your HSA?
No, but I'm talking about how I paid for her delivery.
I thought you was gonna say you took money from your HSA to stay on maternity leave.
No. What I'm saying.
I was saying, don't admit to that on camera.
I'm starting over. Well, I had it a little bit different. I had an HSA at the time where they were taking money out of my paycheck and putting it into this account because my concern financially was, how am I going to pay for this delivery? Mm-hmm. And I remember joking with my mom saying, if I had it just a little bit rougher financially, it'd be free. Because if you're at a lower income, your deliveries are free through the hospital. And I'm like, and I wasn't making a lot, but I was making more than that threshold. So I was annoyed by that fact. So luckily I had enough and I had mapped it out. Okay, I'm pregnant this month. By the time I deliver, I'll have this much in the HSA, which would have been the maximum at the time, $3,000, $3,500, whatever it was, which is how much her delivery was going to be. And then in terms of
fact that you can remember that still to this day is amazing.
And I didn't even take into consideration that you have to pay to give birth.
Yes,
I did, because I was like, Lord, I didn't know how medical.
Well, because that's something you had to think. I didn't have to think about like delivery fees and stuff like that. He was just delivered to me.
Yeah.
So yes, I had parental leave, which is different from maternity leave because parental leave, male or female can take that. Mm-hmm. You get, with my job, 4 weeks paid, that's it. But I was able to stay out a couple of weeks longer because I saved up my vacation and was able to take an additional month to that. I don't think it was enough, especially because he was a whole entire child when I brought him home. So we needed extra time to bond and then we had separation anxiety when it was time for him to go to school and I had to go to work. He was latching on and I'm latching on now and he's trying to fly free. But
that's what happens.
I have separation anxiety now, and I don't know. I need to work on that because I can't even do things I want to do because I'm like I don't want to separate him.
Mm-hmm.
But like, to be fair, you've had your son a year over.
We're over a year and a half now.
Yeah. See, but I didn't give. You're right in that time frame because Jordan will be 4, but I didn't give her, and I still struggle with this, but I didn't have. Has she had an overnight yet? When I had a different job, I had to travel, but Jordan was 2 by that time.
I was on my schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ryan was 1.5 when her father and I did the every other day, and every other day I was boo-hooing and like literally just crying the whole night until I saw her the next day. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a struggle. You're right on.
Okay.
So we all agree that maternity leave that's offered in the United States is not enough because I know Canada has like a whole year you get paid off, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong if you're from Canada. But I think we need something more like that.
Yeah.
And then I think in addition, employers should be more flexible. I heard that at Google you could like bring your kids to work and you can work
that
from
would
home.
make me feel better as a financial aid advisor if there was something on campus where I can be like, okay, my baby's within.
Like an on-site daycare?
Yeah, like within reach. I would have felt better coming back to work being like, okay, I'm going to pop in on lunch. Because one thing that I did do when I did come back to work, my hour lunch, I went to go see my baby.
Right.
I went there.
You had that time?
I spent my whole lunch. I lived just close enough. I was like, drive through and eating in the car, see my baby, hey baby. So it took 20 minutes to get home, 20 minutes to be with my baby, 20 minutes to drive back to work. That was the time frame. And I did that for a couple months and then I'm like, okay, she's at home with my mom. I'm going to stop driving back and forth. It's getting cumbersome.
I do think that it would be nice if employers gave a certain amount of money a year towards families, whether it's for child care, whether it's for bonding, something of that
nature. Like a bonus?
Almost, yes. And it goes specifically
You want bonuses for being pregnant.
Well, here's the thing. I do think, because I work with employees training and staff development, and we do a lot of surveys on what makes you tick, what makes you happy, how productive are you at work. And 9 times out of 10, almost every survey, they talk about family. If my family needs are met, whether that's if you have, it's that peace of mind. I will work harder for you if I know that my daughter is cared for, whether it's an on-site, whether it's, okay, here's a couple $1,000 a year for an extra or a better child care center. Maybe your option is option A, but the blessing of your employer pouring into you, you can go with option B, which is closer to your job, which makes you a happier employee, whatever the case may be.
True.
So it's like the biggest ticket items on employee performance is, satisfaction. So do you feel satisfied in your job? Finances motivate people, and then family. Is your family needs being met? And when it comes to young women or millennials, young fathers, whatever the case may be, we are having children, we need that need being met. Why is it that our birth rates are a lot lower, in these recent years? We're not having as many children. Our families aren't, we don't have 5 or 6 children anymore.
And I consider that a good thing, because as a single parent, you have the blessing of having your child's father, where you guys were able to split the child care costs for your daughter. I don't have that. And again, I fall within this group where I don't make a ton of money, but I make too much to get any type of assistance. Not that that's a goal at all, but I make too much according to whatever that ceiling is, but I don't make enough to put my daughter in a $1,200 a month child care center. And unfortunately, the lowest I found was like $750. It wasn't even like for all 5 days, and I was like, without snacks, without food, $750. My baby can't eat.
But that's it. 1,100 is the average for kids our age.
Right.
For daycare.
Right. And and I found a child care center, and they were like, oh, it's weekly. I'm like, but people get paid bi-weekly, so what are you talking about? So the way the system is set up, it was such a challenge, and it was such a source of stress for me when I was looking from somewhere when my daughter was 2.5 to put her, that I felt like she would be safe, and I felt like she would be cared for, because I'm already a helicopter parent, and I will go off if she's not overseen correctly. So that's when I went to you, and you suggested your son's school, which was a great place for her to be at the time, minus the realization that she might need additional help, and they just weren't able to meet that need, and I don't fault them for that at all. But childcare and income is just outrageous. Even with 2 people, I feel like $1,200, $1,400 a month for some daggone childcare. That's a lot, and that's hard.
It was hard for her father and I, even though we both have great careers, we're blessed. It's still a struggle, because we have life beyond. She's not our only end all be all, and so it is very, very expensive. And it was that reality check when I switched careers, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not the preschool director anymore, so now I have to pay this full price. Writing that check every month, I was like, oh Jesus, that's a car note and some. So yeah, it's difficult, and I don't think that we have enough in-home daycares that are loving and nurturing. I'm a fan of in-home daycares. If it depends. I say fan loosely, because it's definitely changed. Like if I could provide like a one-on-one or like a 1-to-2 ratio for my child as an infant, I would. And my education is in child development, and I'm in and out of centers. And so while I like child care centers, I do. Infant rooms, it's just as scary as an in-home, and I'm not trying to air out my directorness back in the day overseeing a center, but really and truly, you have a 1-to-4 ratio, meaning technically 4 6-week-old babies to one adult. I could barely handle the one. And so you have to make sure that you have great leadership that's going to be in and out of that room. And so yes, you're paying all this money to go to this prestigious, preschool with this 1-to-4 ratio, but it's still just as scary as, animes, daycare down the street. And I'm not saying
it's not as scary for me.
Right. I'm
But
not saying animes, like I would put her in a hole in the wall, but there are in-homes that are very structured and they're nice and they have licensing visits in the whole 9, but the ratios are smaller. I mean, I don't know where those are in California.
And we have other friends who had their kid in in-home childcare centers. My issue would have been,
I need more eyes.
one, I need more eyes. I need security cameras. Secondly, I need somebody to sue. I'm gonna sue your whole corporation, your whole life. Anime's childcare center. Her husband might get away.
If there is an Anime's childcare center,
We don't know. We just throwing that out. But I'm just saying, I can't regulate who Anime has at her house. She could have a boyfriend that's irate. She can be cupcake, and not to say that childcare centers do that. I just can't regulate who's coming and going at your property. Whereas at the childcare center, at the very least, I need to see an incident report. I need to see the camera footage, and if all else fails, I'm suing the hell out your corporation for negligence for my baby.
And some of them don't record. We had camera footage, but it doesn't record. It would be interesting if you had someone that had an in-home to hear their perspective. I throw that out there just because.
Comment down below.
Right. I think we are all helicopter moms and we're very hands-on with our children. I just think that, it would be nice to hear from someone who does run an in-home.
Preference differences.
Because we all have our stereotypes or our biases on, where to put our little ones.
Mm-hmm. Being a CPS social worker, I don't trust nobody. Because people present so well one way, and then you just doing this job, you see just people are crazy out here. I don't live in nobody's home I don't trust. Like, as my daycare provider, you doing in-home, I don't know you well enough. I haven't gotten to know you well enough to build that level of trust, to have you behind closed doors, walls, and all that stuff where it's truly, I can't get in because it's an apartment. Like, I need you to buzz me through the gate, or if you're in the house, or
there's in-homes that are
in the house that's better quality, yes, and it's still your personal property.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, I'm not talking about in-home that's falling down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're talking about just in-home in general, in your home where you have control,
like
and that's
said,
your
like you can have
area.
your boyfriend, your husband, your girlfriend, I don't care, and with the sexual abuse stuff going on, like who's watching my child? If you're the only person who's watching my child in the bathroom, is your boo in there too? Like
okay.
I don't like it.
Okay, well, guess.
But we got off topic. We got off topic. Do you guys have any suggestions on how employers could better support working parents, and not just necessarily mothers, but how an employer could
Bring your kid to work day. Let me bring. You
gotta be a certain age for that.
What?
Bring your kid to work day.
What I'm saying, if they would just let me bring her, because again, if anything happened to my mom, Lord forbid, all of that. But if anything happened to my mom, I'm up a creek. So if my employer was willing to be like, okay, fine, you have a desk job for the most part, we'll allow you to bring her 3 to 4 times out of the week. She can sit in the corner in your office while you're working if she's not a disruption.
I feel like some people would be like, that's not fair to the child, though.
What's wrong?
Well, and I think it depends on your job.
Sit in the corner, be quiet.
She ain't gonna be quiet. She got toys in the corner.
No, I'm just saying that's what people. She got toys in the corner.
And if you know my child, she didn't be in nobody's corner. I'd be like, so it does require a lot of attention, but I don't know. And
you have a job where you have the privilege of being in an office and in a desk.
Oh, you got a desk. Oh, you have an office. So you close the door.
Yeah.
So. Oh, come on, John.
Right. So because there's some parents out there who don't have that.
Right, because at one point I didn't have it. I had a cubicle. So
ain't nothing wrong with a cubicle.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a cubicle. You just don't have that privacy to close the door. But at the same
okay, guys. So we've been talking so long that the battery went dead on the camera. So now we're on the cell phone.
Hey.
I think we're just gonna have to cut it short here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you guys for coming and joining me.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk about like female issues, so I guess I'll save that for the next episode and come prepared with 2 battery packs. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. If you guys have questions or concerns about anything that we said, or you guys want to share your parenting experiences with us, leave us a comment down below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Don't forget to hit the like button, the share button. Hit me up on Instagram. Give me a high five, somebody.
High five.
I'm holding the camera.
And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye.
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 You know, you should have.